Hi and welcome to Advanced Android 5 Programming. I'm Norman McIntyre and I'll be your instructor. We're going to cover in this course a lot of interesting information that builds upon the skills you learned in the Introduction to Android Programming. For example, you'll learn how to read and write data, you'll learn how to use HTML5 in a WebView, and you'll even learn how to access web services. You'll learn how to become a broadcast receiver and receive broadcast from other areas in the system, and you'll learn how to write a service. All of this has been fully updated for Android 5, also known as Lollipop, and it uses the latest development tools. We'll be using the Android Studio and also make a few comments about the previous Android version of Eclipse. We will have all the skills at the end of this. You'll have the skills to develop, support, and debug advanced Android 5 applications. So let's look at our course objectives. If you take this course, you'll find how you can read and write shared preferences, which is something you'll do a lot as you're writing applications that use multiple activities. You'll also learn how to perform file I/O, how you can read and write what are called internal files as well as external files. You'll also see how you can display HTML5 in a web view. There's in fact a lot of applications that are written using HTML5 and JavaScript and cascading style sheets, and they run that code inside of this web view. You'll learn how to create a broadcast receiver to receive broadcast, and you'll learn how to write a web service, or actually access a web service. You'll also learn how to use and create an Android service. We'll find the service is something that runs in the background, and you'll learn how you can access existing services as well as create one on your own. And we'll end by finding out how to use what's called a content provider, and also you'll learn how to create a content provider. Now, the course prerequisites, I assume that you've taken GoGo Training's Introduction to Android 5 Programming, or you have equivalent experience. The module topics, we cover a lot of information here. We'll begin talking about multiple activities. That is, learning how you can have one activity inside of Android call another activity and pass data to and from those different activities. We'll also learn how to use bundle storage. Bundle storage is often used as you're going from activity to activity when you want to store some state information. We'll also learn how you can use what's called shared preferences. For shared preferences, it allows you to store information that will be there even if your application happens to end. Of course, we'll look at file storage, how you can read and write internal files and external files, and you will even learn how you can use a database. The Android system has a SQLite database built into it, and we'll see how we can access that database, which is often used to store data in your application. We'll learn how to draw Android graphics. Specifically, we'll look at the low-level graphics subsystem that's available on Android, and we'll look at Android audio. That is, how do you play some audio files on Android? We'll look at how you use the camera. For example, how do you take a photo using your camera, and how do you take video? We'll learn how to do both of those as we go through this course. But there's more. We'll learn how you take HTML and put it inside a web view and make that part of your application, as well as learning how you can access web services. So for example, there may be a web service, let's say, that provides stock information, and you could go out to the web service, grab the information, and display that as part of your application. Broadcast receivers will be another very key topic that we'll cover. You'll learn how broadcast receivers work and how you can use broadcast receivers to find interesting information that's happening in the system. We'll learn how you can even create custom broadcasts and send those out so others can receive your broadcast. We'll learn how you can use an Android service. It turns out there's a number of built-in Android services that you can access. We'll learn how you can do that. After we've learned how to access existing Android services, we'll look at creating a custom Android service. That is something that runs in the background without any user interface associated with it. We'll then learn how to use content providers. Content providers provide content in different ways. It could be video content, it could be text content, it could be data content. We'll learn how to use those, and then we will end the course by learning how to create a custom content provider. So the system requirements to take this course, I assume you'll have either a PC, a Mac, or a Linux machine, and you'll have at least 2 gigabytes of RAM for your hardware. As far as the software, you'll probably have downloaded the Android Studio, or perhaps you're using Eclipse. In both cases, both Eclipse and the Android Studio will use these Android developer tools. I also assume you'll be using Java. It could be Java 6 or Java 7, Java 8. The key is, since this changes quite frequently, you'll make sure you're using the version of Java that matches the one required by either Android Studio or the Eclipse for Android. Now, what would be a path that you could go through as you take this course? Well, you could begin with programming for non-programmers and learn your basic skills of writing code. You could then take Java programming and learn how the language is used to write Java programs, which, it turns out, Android uses Java as the language. So Android 5 programming, which was the previous course to this one, will show how to use Java in the world of Android. And of course, that would lead to this particular one, the advanced Android programming. You could also take fundamentals of operating systems if that's important to understand how the operating system works and how the Android and other platforms could take advantage of that. So the materials to download, you'll have a student guide that'll show you how to get going into this course. You'll have an exercise guide that has really the solutions to every exercise that we assign as you go through this course. And you'll have a setup guide. So all of those will be available to you as part of taking this course. You'll download those and you can follow right along. So let's get started.